Did Edda birds is the word. Did bird
Birds.
is the word.
Verbs. And not a single one of them made top cut.
What do you mean?
In the top 16? All right.
No.
All right. Let's talk. What's up, everybody? We're back with the Duelist 101 podcast. Of course, we couldn't leave you guys hanging for what, 2 straight weeks? Pshaw. We're back.
We only thought about it.
That's right. Hey, listen. If my professors could stop giving me like papers and stuff, that'd be great. If my professors knew that I would wait till the last minute to do everything,
do it.
Listen. All right, church. So we.
And this is what the Ugulation says.
That's right. If you look in
there's Ugulations and Kaiba Deuteronomy, and
I think you could have picked probably any other book to parody, and it would have been better. Not Kings, first Kaiba, second Kaiba. Come on, man.
Too easy. All you do is first and the last name. Way too easy.
Hey, I hear that.
Guys,
it does follow the same pattern.
What is going on, everybody? Like Mason said a second ago, this is the Duelist 101 podcast. Make sure if you're a new listener here, please like, subscribe, follow us. Make sure you stick around for more videos, more podcasts, everything like that. And we would love to have you be part of our team.
That's right. We are on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. If you would like to hear the same podcast 2 times in pretty much the exact same format,
and barely anything changes except the intro video.
Hey, listen, here's what changes, all right? Me and Zach edit different things, all right? So if you want to decide who's better, all right, listen, we're twins, so competition is necessary and even vital.
It's a core piece of our life. Yeah, absolutely.
It is absolutely. Like the fact that I'm even in Yu-Gi-Oh right now is because I wanted to beat Zach at it. So I mean,
it took nothing else. I said, "Hey Mason, do you want to try this game?" And I gave him a deck that was intentionally worse than my own, and we sat there until he figured out how to win.
And listen, let me tell you, as soon as I started, I ain't never looked back. Phantom Knights for the win, baby.
He's lost several times since.
Hey, shut up, all right? You mixed it with Eldritch. What's up, everybody? So, hey, listen. So, quick review of just kind of things that have been going on. Number one, we had the remote duel YCS in North America, at least. I don't know. Did other places have this?
I believe it was all over the. I know can't. Well, it's North America. There were a lot.
You are literally a teacher.
So there were a bunch of tournaments here in North America. There was some, and I was actually surprised. We were doing research on some of the Konami sponsored stores that host remote duel places, and they are all over the place. California, Florida, Oklahoma, and Hawaii, and just all over the place. I was incredibly impressed on what was going on. And with that, we got some results on the past of fluonderies and things like that. I think we'll mention that here in just a second. First, guys, welcome to Codebreak.
Quick review on fluonderies because we were not really sure how they would play out. Zach, what'd they do?
So birds traditionally fly, right? They fly.
Okay, Zach, you're done talking. You're done.
Fly.
All right, so fluonderies ended up. They represented well. A lot of people wanted to play the deck. As far as the remote duel for North America, I don't think they converted that well.
It wasn't.
Depending on how you do top cut. Yeah.
Right. It wasn't super impressive. We can tell you that of the overall participants, we had 22 out of 718 total players that picked up fluonderies, and it is a brand new deck to TCG North America. And so what that means, when a new deck comes into the fold, what happens is the very first tournament that happens right after the format begins, what happens is the new deck sort of gets figured out on the way. It's why Tri Brigade has become such a big deal, right? It has had like 4 different evolutions: Bird Up, Zoo, and now it's just this.
What, Lyrilisk now?
I think it's back to Bird Up, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I guess Bird Up was that. Bird Up was also really big on capitalizing on Miss Valley Apex Avian.
Yeah,
and like Barrier Statue.
Same thing. Like it became a negation stun board, and actually not terrible to play against, but it was so darn consistent. It was like Dragon Link level consistency. We'll talk about that on a future episode. Fluanderies, it's a normal summon heavy thing and creates a lot of great stun power in a meta where stunning the entire board makes it really hard to play through.
I mean, it's
unless
the same
you are
reason,
willing to pay a lot of money.
Yeah, it's the same reason. Invoke Dogmatica should all.
Still a top meta contender. Just it
like,
survives.
Floodgates matter. I think if people brought Subterra Guru, I think it would probably still be successful, as annoying as it is.
It would play Subterra and just throw in DPE and Dragoon.
You have the space, probably.
You have room, right? You have, just go for it. So that's sort of the general results. I can tell you, however, at one specific store that there was actually some pretty decent results of Fluanderies. Let me find it right quick.
Here we go. Side Deck Gaming Cafe.
The Side Deck Gaming Cafe. Actually, Fluanderies made up almost 10% of Topka. It made 9% if you want to be real specific. Swordsoul made up 4%. Swordsoul is really interesting, and we're going to talk about why Swordsoul can be different in the OCG versus TCG, and it has to do with the cards that are available, and I'll mention that later. So we got to talk a little bit about excuse me, what in the world do the Swordsoul cards do? So Mason, I'm going to put you on the spot, since I haven't shown you what these cards are called or anything like that, and see how well you can pronounce cards you haven't seen before. So Mason, you go right ahead.
All right, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I swear to you, I'm not a racist.
These words can be a little tough to pronounce. It's like when Virtual came out.
Yeah, exactly. And I will admit, and listen, I'm gonna go ahead and preface everything that's about to happen for the next 5 to 20 minutes. That the fact of the matter is, I'm doing the best I can, and someone, I would love for you to correct me, please. I'm begging you, and I mean that genuinely, not just like when MBT's like, all right, you guys tell me what deck or what cards were cutting in favor of the other card. All right,
no, seriously, like if you are a grammar or phonetics expert, please, for the love of all that is good in the world, please teach us how we are supposed to say this stuff the right way. We really don't like messing stuff up. We are teachers by trade, and whenever we learn kids' names or something like that, one of the most powerful things about meeting another person is to be able to say their name and do it the right way. And even though these are just cards, they're inanimate things, we want the same sort of level of respect. We want to practice that thing where we are consistently saying things right. So if we say it wrong, please correct us.
Yeah. That being said, until then, I will need to refer to them by color, which feels equally messed up.
Oh my gosh.
All right. So let's roll through the cards that Zach wrote down. I'll be honest, you guys need to give Zach complete credit on this episode. Mason didn't do a thing. Mason was writing a paper the whole time.
Mason's been completing his finals for his master's degree. Forget anything he says. Like, I did do some of the work, but he's been working his tail off doing stuff. So props up to him on that. Anyway, Mason, go ahead.
Listen, thank you, but stop. All right, first card. Let's go through the boss monster real quick. Chen Ying.
Close
is a synchro monster. It's the boss, and when it would be destroyed, it banishes a card, and then gains 100 attack and makes the opponent lose 100 attack and defense for each banished card. Let me hear you, Phantom Knights fans. When a card is banished, banish a card the opponent controls and engrave, and that is a hard once per turn. That's a pretty good effect.
That is fantastic. Now,
that is a pretty freaking good effect.
Now, I believe this is the case. I don't believe it targets for its banished. I'm gonna pull it up real quick just to double check.
Please. It's absurd.
But when it goes and banishes something like that, especially when it's non-targeting, that's a huge effect. That's a huge game changer in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah. Banish one card from both your opponent's field and graveyard. Now it does limit barely, but what deck doesn't have cards in grave at some point? Yeah. Right. Especially a decent combo deck while it's working through. Anyway, go ahead.
So then we got Chi Xiao. So this is their I think it's just the two. No, they have more synchro. This is one of their other synchro monsters. It's a recursion tool. It adds sword souls from deck to hand, banishes if you want that. That is your cards, not just your opponent's stuff. So sometimes you want your own cards in the banished zone, so that's good. And it has a quick effect negate, which is pretty fantastic. And that actually ties into another card, which we will get to in a moment. We have Chun Jun. That is a main deck monster. Before damage calc, it can pop itself and the card attacking it, which is pretty freaking good as a type of removal. It also has a quick effect tribute to special summon. I'm guessing another Swordsoul from hand. Is that correct?
Well, it tributes to special summon itself. I gotta be honest, Chun Jun, it's probably
while it's in hand.
While it's in hand, you can tribute a monster you control and special summon it so you can get that quick effect pop if you want. I gotta be honest though, I think it's the worst card. Okay. But there's a reason for that. It's because of the motivation behind the deck, and we'll get into that as we go on.
Yes, you will, buddy. I don't know nothing. All right. Oh gosh, I'm so gonna screw this name up. Long Wan.
Close as I got.
Yuan. I don't know how Y's are supposed to be pronounced in this particular language, so I'm really sorry, guys. Y'all just y'all laugh it up, have a good time. The main deck monster token generator locks you into synchros while there is a token on the field. Not a difficult thing to get around. And when used as synchro material, you can inflict 1,200. That is, count them, 1,200 points of damage to your opponent. For those of you counting, you only have to synchro with this one, 6 times.
Yeah, that's all.
Boom! I think that. I think technically you would have 7. To do it 7 still, just because. Yeah.
Just need the one more. Could be 5, a FTK, but
5 would do that, but you need the 7 for the 1,000. Anyway,
we don't talk about FTKs here unless it's meta.
Yeah. Or if you're a Ruin Force pilot. If you are a Machina Ruin Force pilot, I applaud you. That is the dopest FTK I've seen in a long time. So that's not bad at all, but people probably primarily use that as a token generator, if I had to guess.
Yeah, and more than anything, just to add in, you guys probably have heard the meme, "Ga cowboy for game." Mm-hmm. Use it. That's a great time to use that. Whenever you're starting stuff through your deck, normal summon, get your token, synchro, inflict 1,200 damage, go into time. If you're at a tournament, that's a great way to use it.
Yeah. Ideally, you are, finishing them off quickly, but if that's what it comes down to, abso-freaking-lutely. All right. With Chi Xin, I always get this pronunciation wrong. I had a student teach me how to do the X sound, but Chi Xin, I don't know. Long Yuan. It's another synchro. When your opponent special summons to the field, banish it and inflict 1,200 damage. More burn damage. I don't why does this burn? This is so weird.
Because why not? And I think
that's my point. Why does Dragoon burn? It's the same logic here. So, hey, listen, the synchro spam aspects are not strong enough. Let's take this to the next level, just in case people get so bored that they fall asleep and
you know what's just a little too easy to deal with? All the negates a synchro that can come out.
Right. All right. So it looks like optional. When you synchro summon, you can draw a card. Is that not what? Oh, once per turn. Excuse me.
There it is.
Once per turn, when you synchro summon, you can draw a card. So, TG Hyper Librarian. When your opponent does stuff, banish their crap and inflict 12 sack. I hate this description. Are you just referring to the first effect again? What's happening here?
No, I believe that's actually an additional effect. So when they special summon and when they activate effects, and I believe everything's like a hard once per turn.
I'll be real with you. This would be a dope FTK deck. So dope.
If not for all the once per turn clauses, yes.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. You got to find the busted cards that don't that force different things. Anyway, we've got Mo Yay. It's a main deck. On normal or special summon, you can reveal a Swordsoul or Worm card. Hello, Tenyi. That's why it's connected there. To make a level 4 tuner token. Is that not bonkers as is? And you can draw a card when that token is when the token or the main deck monster is used as material.
Main deck.
Cool. We have Taya. Banish Taya from grave to make a token. I tell you what, tokens are broken in synchro material formats. When used as synchro material, send Swordsoul card or worm from deck to grave. Foolish Burial is never, ever a bad thing, especially if you got that recursive engine already going. Then we have the last one that connects to our second synchro monster that we mentioned.
Right. So
is that right?
Yeah. So one of the second boss we mentioned, Chi Xiao, I'm botching it, I'm sure. This card is called the Iris Swordsoul, and it happens to have this weird effect. To be clear, I don't believe this has any connection to the archetype outside of the name. But when I was researching on Wikipedia, I just try to write the cards down so you can build whatever kind of deck you want if you want to play this. And this is the effect. It says, while it's in hand, if a monster on the field has its effect negated, special summon this monster from hand. It's like, cool. That's a neat way to do things. Doesn't happen all the time. That's pretty neat. And then it gets effects when your opponent special summons monsters. Now, the thing we want to mention about this card is, especially with that second boss, Chi Zhao, one of its effects is a quick effect negation. Well, if you do that and you have Iris Swordsoul in hand, negate, special summon, and then check this out. Here's the power behind this monster. When your opponent special summons a monster, watch where it comes from. If it comes from the hand, you get to special summon from the hand. If it comes from the deck, you get to draw 2 cards. So Pot of Greed, anyone? And then when it comes from the extra deck, you get to pop one of their monsters for free. Potentially even the monster they just special summoned from the extra deck.
Word.
It's ridiculous. Now, I believe everything's once per turn, but that is an insane thing. Like I said, I don't believe it's part of the archetype. If it is, I'm happy to be corrected. I think that's a really neat effect. And if it's gas in the deck when you actually play it, that's fantastic.
It'd be kind of funny to do like a skill drain version of this. I'm sorry, I was being
yeah, no, that'd be really cool.
Man, so I mean, this deck, gosh, it probably has some of the most potential, like just inherently, as compared to any. I mean, I know those are the monsters. Do they have like powerful spells, traps, anything?
The spells and traps absolutely are powerful. They are all gas, is what they do, and the trap is further effect negation. Like, everything else is really good. We just happen to talk about the monsters. Let me tell you, Mason, there is one thing that's really cool. I didn't write this down, completely forgot to, but I'm going to mention it real quick.
Sure.
All of these tokens that it generates, number one, it's a token generator, and it does lock you into synchros. All of them do whenever that token's on the field. But it's so easy to get rid of. Oh my gosh, it's so easy to get rid of. And you get added benefit just because you synchro summon that turn. So that's pretty neat. Something that's cool is these tokens are normal monsters. That's why it works with Tenyi.
Well, there we go.
Tenyi gets effects based off normal monsters being on field in some capacity. If you haven't seen Tenyi before, incredibly, incredibly cool. Many people use cards like Tenyi Spirit Vishuddha and things like that because it's a targeted banish whenever it hits the grave or different stuff. Like, I forget the effect. I know it banishes stuff.
Yeah.
And that makes it incredibly cool. This deck is wild because it's able to mash up so many synchro tools that we have. Now, there is this issue just to watch for. You guys can sort of see the cracks in the foundation of what makes this deck. And here is what we have in regards to that, this deck has great synchro potential, especially in the OCG, because they still have cards like Jet Synchron.
Do they really?
They do, and it's like completely legal. And you know why? Because OCG players are probably nicer than TCG players.
Well, it's because they have like Max C and stronger things to counter it, right?
They do. They have things like Max C, and if you play something like Max C against this deck, then all of a sudden you are drawing cards at the wazoo, and you just get to watch your opponent play for a second while you get all the advantage that you want in your hand. In addition to that, they they do have Maxi, they have all those things, and they have a bunch of other cards that are just really stupid that are banned here. They have a lot of ways that they can deal with all of that for sure. And I had a thought a second ago. I don't remember what it was. Whatever. There you go. Keeping going.
Yeah, no, I went and looked up the spells and traps. The goal is that they end up in the graveyard so you can banish them. That's pretty much it. No, I'm starting to see why people think this deck is like boring, just in as much as I never mind linear decks, right? That's the fundamental thing with Duel Links. Every single deck that's on there has a very fundamental game plan that you're trying to accomplish. But I do see where it's boring whenever all the cards literally do the same thing, in as much as especially the spells and traps, half of them, whenever you banish them, you get a Swordsoul token.
Yeah, no, it's all the same kind of thing. And they just want to spam that token, synchro summon all over again, and just watch your opponent try to do stuff. And in addition to that, Swordsoul's actually, according to the recent finishes of the deck in the OCG, we'll talk about those here in a few minutes. This is the second best combo deck to Phantom Knights.
Used to be until the OCG ban list came out. You see that?
No, I didn't. How'd that come out? Did they ban PK?
They limited Torn Scales.
Oh, that's shocking. Okay.
And
wow.
I believe banned Fusion Destiny.
That's a good call.
They also limited or banned one of the Brave token cards. So PK is now dead in the OCG.
You guys remember, if you haven't listened to it, we have some episodes talking about the very basics of the game. And we talked about one of our very first ban list reactions had to do with Jet Synchron getting banned. And whenever a deck is so highly powered over everything else, and you have to take it behind the shed to beat it kind of thing. Not to say anything. Yeah, it's just, hey, Tony, take this guy out back. He's going to get moided. And it's just a whole, it's just a whole thing. Let's talk real quick, guys. We have one thing we need to mention real quick. We're going to tell you the starters to look for, then the bosses of what generally their combo line wants to end up on, and different things like that. And we'll sort of further mention what makes it good. That way you have a full understanding of the foundation. Then we are going to break the foundation to its pieces. So
we'll try. So the starters are
everything except for Chun Jun. That's the only one that really doesn't have a starter effect in terms of making a token or different things like that. It's just not an amazing card. It's okay. It's just not great. And so I'd say most of the main deck, the Irish Swordsoul, that's also not a starter, but I also still am very unsure because I don't think it's even a worm. So it can't really be part of the archetype or whatever because the rest are worms. And that's also why it goes with Tenyu. Anyway.
I mean, anybody can place the Iris. That's interesting. All right.
So yeah. Now, next thing, the bosses. This is where it'll get you. And there's some of this stuff where if you look at OCG lists, they are full of all these synchro bosses that we just don't have here in the TCG. So we'll mention some of the ones that we do have or some that we're going to be getting very soon if we don't have them already. First one, easiest in the book, Borreload Savage Dragon.
Anytime you get a synchro deck, you're going to see this card. Next up.
We have Chin Ying, which is the very first thing, I believe. Chin Ying was when it would be destroyed, banished a thing. And it acts like Kagari and Shizuku at the same time, right?
Just
right. Incredibly annoying to deal with. There is Chi Zhao, which has been coming through. That's the once per turn negate. There is Baron de Fleur. That's a newer one.
Yeah, it's Omni negate. That's all.
Right. And go ahead.
I was just gonna finish up. Any other synchro toolbox kind of stuff? Prepare for what you expect to see. If it's a lot of Swordsoul, find a good counter synchro monster. I'm sure they exist.
Mm-hmm.
Then Black Rose Dragon, especially if you're going second. It doesn't look like any of these have natural
no major field clearance stuff.
Right. Not only that, but it doesn't look like any of them have protection either.
Also true.
I mean, they have ways to come back.
They negate, but they care much more about stopping the combo in its tracks as opposed to being able to resist a combo, which honestly ends up being a trademark of really good decks. Is number one, they're protected. So Tri Brigade as our example, protected through Wind Barrier Statue, and it's also protected through it's also protected through its non-targeting banish.
True. So I mean, lots of potential, and the bosses, the fact that it's a synchro deck, synchro has tons of just super flexible bosses. It really just kind of depends what you want. And I think that's a wonderful piece of the game, especially since none of these are actually limiting you as far as the kind you can have. Not from what I saw anyway.
Nothing locks you into Swordsoul, and it makes it really stupid. It can't,
or even Worm.
Yep. And
maybe some of the Tenyi stuff does, though. Sorry.
A lot of the cards go and they special summon based on being Swordsoul or Worms. And if you look at the game of Yu-Gi-Oh, Worm doesn't have a crazy amount of support. So it really works great.
Yeah. So, of course, the big thing that, aside from the bosses, as far as what's offered in the main deck, it's Graveyard Hate, and you can draw cards. Whenever you draw cards, you come to learn as the longer you play this game, drawing cards and having more resources that you know about in your hand, the better often, or more often, the better you do. So, Zach, what is it that makes this deck difficult to deal with for if you're facing it?
There's a ton of things. Synchro spam is so annoying. What I recommend when you're dealing with synchro spam, find Hulk or Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon and kill them.
Yeah, actually.
If you stop those two cards, those are my Ash targets or whatever you would call on that. Those are the ones you want to stop either through Imperm or Ash or whatever negation you can find in that scenario. Those work incredibly well against that. We'll talk more about some cards that work there. Also, synchro monsters are so stupid. And let me tell you why. The cost to use many of them is so little that it is stupid.
Yeah. I remember this wasn't even an actual card game. It was watching the Arc 5 anime. And as I was watching it, spoiler, Crow Hogan's in it. And he's like the Blackwing dude from 5Ds. And so you watch him just go off and just summon over and over. And then you go through times in the actual card game, like the Adamancipator combo build. You go through times with Eldritch, the combo build, which if you were not around for that, wow.
It was stupid. There was a reason Jet Synchron got
oh my gosh.
And it's because they wanted people to pay for Hulk. Bring back Jet Synchron and get Hulk out of here.
That's right. Except I like Hulk. So
limit Hulk.
That's so I mean, synchro monsters, man, you could just spam them and it's not even a big deal.
They are ridiculous.
Yeah.
In addition, they happen to meld well with Tenyi. Tenyi is a synchro-based deck. A card that comes to mind is Draco, Berserker of the Tenyi. When your opponent does things, banish.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
They also have some very good non-effect link monsters, so they just turn into big beat sticks, and you just have to deal with that.
Incredibly annoying to deal with.
Less fun.
Now let's answer the best question you guys probably have. How do you win?
Yeah. So of course, when our floodgates not fun, less fun than this deck for sure. One thing that I really liked that Zach put in here was no material. No material, and that's pun. That's like GNOM. Is
think the
like
little gnome in this time of Christmas / holidays.
Are you familiar with the epic tale Romeo and Juliet? So you can discard this card, and your opponent can't use the monster they just summoned for pretty much any kind of material. Totally stops some decks in their tracks, which is pretty fantastic. Dimensional Barrier, I can see being actually very bad.
One of the things.
Oh, no. Oh, my bad. Hold up. I'm thinking of Dimensional Fissure.
Oh. Now, make sure you guys understand the difference.
Give them the advantage.
There's Dimensional Fissure, which banishes stuff. This deck happens to get benefit off being banished. We don't want that. What we do want, however, is Dimensional Barrier, because it is a floodgate that you can activate, and boom, you get to call a type of extra deck summoning, not counting links, and you can say no this turn.
Yeah.
If you go and call Synchro against this deck,
they're done.
Done for the turn.
What are they going to do? No, there's another card that I'm thinking of that is really good against this. I think it's a trap.
Oh, are you talking about the thing that is it Dimension Wall or something? It prevents banishing.
Imperial it's a continuous Iron Wall.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah. That one prevents banishing entirely.
So if you are a combo deck versus combo deck, that might be a really good call to be able to play longer than your opponent, not necessarily faster, but having that on field, they don't pop stuff great.
Yep.
They do have
a trap that does it.
And they have the one boss that does banish whenever things happen. But if you use a card, for example, Dark Ruler No More, where this is a heavy monster effect deck, this is not a spell trap laying down deck. Therefore, you get a lot of advantage just off doing something like that. One of the last things that sort of falls under Dark Ruler No More is taking away monster effects at some point, right? Cards like Infinite Impermanence, Ash to stop one of the summons, anything like that can help you control the board state a little bit better, and then hopefully OTK on the crack that.
Yeah. I mean, this is really one of those decks that playing against it is really facing the inevitable to a certain point, it sounds like.
It absolutely is. Now, there's some cards that help with that. We'll try to give you an assortment of options that help and try to talk about what the cards kind of do on the way through. There's one of my favorite things. We've mentioned it a lot this episode. We have on-field negation in any capacity. Cards that do that kind of thing. If you want mid-range, Infinite Impermanence, Effect Veiler, Forbidden Droplet is ridiculous against this deck. Right? Absolutely ridiculous. All of a sudden, you're stopping all monster effects, you're stopping spells, stopping traps, whatever you happen to have in hand based on what your deck likes to do. My favorite couple cards, if you are a trap-heavy deck, the card Lost Wind is ridiculous. It acts like Infinite Impermanence in that you get to target and negate effects of a monster, and it has its attack unless they were hoping to beat over your whatever card. Doesn't matter.
True.
In addition to that, actually one of my favorite cards, just because the art on it is so stinking cool, is Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. Number one, when your opponent activates monster effect, you can negate it by discarding, and if that monster leaves the field at any point because they want to extend their combo or anything, if that particular monster leaves the field, they take damage equal to its attack.
And sounds like a cubic strat.
It is.
I think that's really great. Of course, Ghost Ogre is good. You pop monsters on the field, they can't summon their bosses because they don't have the tuners to do it, right? The big limit of a synchro deck is you got to have tuners, you got to have non-tuners, and they don't have cards, I don't believe, that treat them like either thing.
Not really, no.
You talked about a compulsory evacuation device is really good. Um, Again, if you can bounce something back to hand, then oftentimes that will stop a synchro deck in their tracks. Ooh, token collector is not one that Zach has on here, but this is
That's
a good
a fun one.
It would be extremely funny against this deck, I think. Token collector, your opponent can, like, whenever they first summon tokens, you can discard this card, destroy all tokens on the field, and then they can't summon tokens again.
It's some random token beat. It's really fun. It's a good card. There is Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. That one's interesting just because you're playing against a combo deck. What it does is every time your opponent special summons a monster, you gain life equal to its attack points after you discard. Good. It's better against heroes, but it's funny against other combo decks as well.
Yep. And you put in here Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion as well. So, it's negates things in the graveyard, which is pretty ideal. I don't know how many of them actually activate within the graveyard, though. Do some of the main deck monsters do that?
Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion says some along the lines of when your opponent's trying to move a card from the graveyard to elsewhere, you can negate that effect type of thing. So on that banish, maybe you can go and negate the boss when it's like opponent special summon, so it's trying to banish stuff. Well, all of a sudden it can't because it's trying to move it from the graveyard or something like that.
That'd be awesome.
And so I'll have to go look at the ruling, see what happens on that. But I feel like it could work.
Yeah, it totally could. So, I mean, this deck, I would like to experiment with it just a little bit more to have an even better idea of kind of what to expect with it. But I will say a lot of the suggestions that Zach put in here seem extremely good. Having ways to keep monsters off your opponent's side of the field. Here's the deal. If you are in this thing to have fun, make sure you understand that, if you're playing against your friends or whatever, that they're kind of aware of what to expect. But if the goal is winning, play these cards. You'll have a far better chance.
Yeah, we do recommend. Now, next thing, what can we expect in the future of what is going on in this game? These are all from the website Road to the King. They have a Patreon. Please go help them out. They help us so much in our research for what's going on. Please help them out. As of late, it started out actually kind of small after the deck initially came out. That would be, they had about 8% of the top cut in general across the tournaments over in the OCG, and it has just slowly progressively come up. It's at about 11% now, 10.9 exact. And I believe this probably actually has some updated stats based on recent tournaments. So it's starting small, but it's coming into the fold. So it's sort of our deck to watch on what we expect to happen. So it's a good deck. It's synchro.
Definitely probably the preferred combo deck if I had to guess. Because I would still consider Fluanderies a kind of control, sort of.
I think so. It has a lot of stun tools. It just makes a little better sense for control, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, Phantom Knights is strong, but I think they will.
They're gonna fall a lot.
Man, people get very experimental in the TCG, and OCG lists start pretty cut and dry, but TCG people will play with this deck for a long time, I think. Which is good. You like the diversity, but you hate seeing the same deck. But anyway, Zach, you want to kind of walk us through just kind of a big overview of what we have?
So until this recent ban list, this was the second best combo deck in the OCG, and specifically combo in that it's made to end up with a lot of bodies on board that do something very particular. It's not a control strategy where you sort of have to rely on back row to see what's happening. What we expect is Fluanderies is probably going to take the top spot just for a second while we are in that format, along with Drytron, Striker, different cards like that. And then it'll be combo. The sort of reigning king of combo will be up for grabs, and I think Swordsoul has a great chance to take it. If you want to be successful, you just have to stop monster effects as best you can. The best card, if you are cheap get some structure decks or just buy this card separately because it's so stinking cheap, get Effect Veiler.
Effect Veiler, Infinite Impermanence. Either one of them will be good.
Any card like that is so good. In addition, any cards that stop monster effects. So if you are a combo deck, get some monster negation in your deck, or just be prepared for that. Because I really think this is going to come up a lot. Though we had a lot of shakeups in the recent TCG breakdown that we'll get into later.
That's true. So Zach, man, you got any ideas about what we're talking about next week, or are we going to keep it a surprise?
But Tri-Brigade is too good to not talk about. Bird Up, whatever you want to call it. We really need to spend some time making sure you understand how to face that in your local meta. What are some decent ways to do it, and what makes the board so impressive, and why is the deck so impressive, and why has it been good for almost a year now? It's been around for a second now.
Long time. That's horrifying.
It's surprising.
Yeah. So I mean, all right, we are going to be talking about Beast. So if you a beast out here, if you out here getting swole, if you are out here doing,
if you are like Don Juan trying to not walk through doors.
That's right. Listen, if you were trying to have some girth in your torso,
specifically the shoulder torso, not so much the tummy torso, traditionally.
That's right, but only traditionally. But you better be here next week when we drop that episode. Thank you guys
be
so
here,
much for
or
listening.
else.
Yeah, we love all of you. Shout out to MasterCards on Instagram. I've been getting to talk back and forth. They're also an amazing card page, and they've been so supportive. Big shout out to you. You're doing great stuff. So thanks for thinking about us.
Yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with us, interacting with us. We love it. Otherwise, we just have to do boring teacher things. And especially this week, both of us are done for this semester. And we would love to go hang out and talk while we are forced to hang out with our in-laws.
Word.
I am just kidding. Love my in-laws. Peace.
That was only if they're listening. If you're not listening, he's lying.
If you're not listening, no. Thank you guys so much for listening. And that's about all we got this week. Mason, any final words?
That's all I got. See you guys next week. Class is dismissed. See you guys.
Peace.